Alright, in this video we're going to do a quick crash course in kind of what is a card, just to kind of be a little refresher. And then we're going to go through the process of cutting cards inside of debateX. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this pick or counter plan we wrote for the last season that we just had over social services. And we didn't end up getting to read this read this counter plan, so you get to see it, but we're going to use it to kind of look over a card. So I think the best one to kind of look at right here is this Wolves are a Keystone Species card. So if you can kind of see where I am right here, see what's all highlighted, it's pretty good to be able to see all the different nuances that you have inside of a card. So first thing to point out is the tag, and that's the first part of any card. And your tag, if you notice right here, is in heading 4. And you're going to notice that heading 4 shows up on this sidebar right here. So it allows you to scroll through the different tags of the cards you have, which can prove to be helpful when you're looking for specific things inside of a file. The second thing you'll notice is that this is the citation. So this is a particular type of source citation that occurs inside of debate, and that citation, this particular one, is being used because it is an organization and not an individual author. So you can see that beyond pesticide environmental, which is the group name, and then you've got the article title right here, and then you see that it was published in 2014, and it was accessed September 27th, 2023. And that's the URL to where you're going to be able to find it. So that's the source citation, and you can kind of see that. When it is, and you'll be able to see these sort of formats for the source citations a little bit if you scroll down on the web page. I'm going to put those there for you in order to be able to quickly access those when you have them up. This is the text of the card, and so it looks like this card was just simply one paragraph long, but you'll notice a few things. First, you'll notice that there are underlined words throughout this entire paragraph. When you're looking at a card that is like the one you are looking at right now, if you were to read this in a round, you would have to read all of the underlining portions of it. So we'll kind of go through a quick hierarchy of when you read what inside a round. So, to look at this, first, if you have a card that looks like this, so there's no underlining, there's no highlighting. If you find a card that's like that, you would have to read the entire text, the entire paragraph. Now that's not very word efficient, that's not very efficient use of speech time, so a lot of times you'll have teams that will do at least underlining. You'll see this isn't a great underlining, but what it does do is it does cut out some of these sentences and words here to make it a little bit quicker to be able to get through. And you'll also notice a third way, which is you can highlight. So for example, wolves are a keystone species. Pesticides can significantly reduce or change the behavior of. And so you can highlight them. And then if you had the rest of this, let's just say that's enough, just for now. I didn't read it, so I don't really know whether it's a good highlighting of that card or not. There might be more that is needed, but the point is that if you were to see a card like this, you would simply read the highlighted version. Now, if you run across a card that has actually, we'll do it that way, no underlining, but it does have highlighting, you obviously can just read the highlighting. So kind of think about it this way. If it's highlighted, that's what you're going to read. If it's only underlined, that's what you're going to read. And if it has none of it, like that, you would have to read the entire thing. And that would make it significantly less efficient, which is why it's important to read your evidence before you have around so that you can know what is going on with the card. So, 3 parts to a card. You've got your tag, you've got your citation, and then you've got the text of the card. So let's say that you are going to do and cut your own cards right now. So you can do this in multiple different ways, but the point is you need to get a new document open. And you can do it from here, or you can do it from here. So if you were to go to docs.google.com, you could do a blank document here, or if you were to go to drive.google, you could do it from here as well, where by clicking new and then a Google Doc. So I just opened a Google Doc. Now you'll notice that what I've done is I've set this up so that every single one of my headers is already established in debate format like I want it to be. So you can look at all the different headers and different things like that, and those are all nice to know about. But right now we're doing a crash course on how to cut cards. So the important one you need to know is Control-Alt-4, or you can go up to here and click the heading 4. This will be your tag. And so when you've got that new document open, you want to click Control-Alt-4 or come up here and click the heading 4 feature. That will provide your tag. Then you would have your citation. And your citation will go author, qualifications, article title, publisher. So this would think like newspaper or periodical, etc. All of those are different options there. So like New York Times, Time Magazine, etc. You'll be able to find those there. Then you would type the date of publication. Then you would have the URL. And then you would have the access date. And so this would be the date, the current date. Insert the current date here. Okay, and so if we pop, well, we can't really pop over there. Okay, so you'll see here in a second what that kind of looks like here again. And then you'll have the text of the card. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and erase all of that. And we are going to cut our very own card. So from here, I went to Google News, and I just found an article that I can make a card out of. So we're going to make a card out of this article right here, which is what's going to happen in Android 15 when it's released here soon. So I've looked it over, and I've said I'm going to use from here all the way down to here. Because what I really want to do is I want to say, we now have the second beta release of Android 15, so it's a good opportunity to round up everything coming to the OS this year. And then I will have something from here about the better multitasking. So in order to be able to cut that card in a way that's not cheating, I'm going to have to do a few things. First, well, we should tag our card over here. So we'll say, oh, wrong doc. Okay, there we go. So we want to tag it over here. We would say Android 15 will have better multitasking. Okay? And so what I like to do from there is I like to take the text. So here's a few notes about the text. So if we kind of think back of what I highlighted here a second ago, I wanted this line right here. We now have the second beta all the way down to the end of here, and I don't want this. And then I'm going to want something right here. So I'll be able to, it says that I'll be able to have, with large screen displays, I'll be able to pin taskbar permanently on the screen for more desktop-like experience. And split screen combinations. So I'm going to want those things. Well, some people might be tempted to just highlight this. You cannot do that. If you are going to start using part of an article, you have to use the very beginning of the paragraph. The importance to this is that when you do it this way, it allows the other team to be able to see if you are cutting the card in context and if you're actually using the article in the way that it was intended. Because then they can make arguments about that, and there's also an ethics challenge. So for example, if I'm doing this here, I would copy this with my Control-C, or I can do that, right-click, Control-C, and then I'll go over to my card, and then I'm going to paste it in here. Now when I paste it, you can tell that it's got funny font over here and it's got the links. That's not a good way to be producing cards. It makes it a lot harder to read, it's not uniform, and websites can have a bunch of problems with that. So I'm going to tell you about something that's pretty nifty, which is Control-Shift-V. Now you can see that it's gotten rid of all the links, it's uniform, and it looks much better here. So remember, we have it go from there, and then Control-Shift-V made it look like that. And you can also do it from right here. So if you right-click on the where you want the text of the card, you can say Paste without formatting. Go away. Okay, so don't right-click on it. It's wanting me to... Okay, it just wants me to use the keyboard shortcut, so... Point is, Control-Shift-V will be your paste without formatting, and you can see that it says what the keyboard shortcut is right there. And so if you're using it on a different type of operating system and it changes, it'll be able to tell you right there. So now we go back to our article and we say, hey, that's not everything that I needed. You just said that once you start a card, you can't stop it. That's correct. So when I go like this and I start getting the rest of it, you notice how this part right here, where it says related and Google I/O and has a link there, that's not part of the article, but it is getting picked up when I'm going down here. So that's why I started it the way I did. I started here, copied and pasted it over, and then I can start back here and grab the rest of what I want the article to do. And then I can go back over here, and then I can do my special enhanced paste without formatting, and now I can highlight it. And you can also underline with Control-U. And so remember, I don't want to use this part. And then I can go over here and I can say that Android 10 will improve multitasking, enabling you to pin tasks permanently, blah, blah, blah. What's more, split screen app combinations like Gmail and YouTube. So there we go. Now I have my card here. Well, if you notice one thing I skipped over the citation. So we know we need to be able to cite this. So I see the author right here is this individual. So I'm going to come over here and go there, because he's the author. So then you don't see any qualifications right there, so I'm going to scroll all the way down. These articles can be long. Okay, and I'm scrolling all the way down, and usually at the end of an article is where you might find the qualifications or a publication date for an article. I don't see either of those down here, so I know that I'm going to have to look up above in order to be able to do that. Well, I'm looking up here, and I don't see any qualifications, so I can click on his name. We can see if he has any qualifications. He's a freelancer, which just means he writes stuff. That's not really a qualification. So I can go back over here, and instead of having a comma, I just press period, because he doesn't have any qualifications that are articulated here. So remember what's next in your source citation. You've got the name, qualifications, and then you need the article title. So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to grab my article title. I'm going to copy and paste that. Now watch this. If I just Control V here, it screws it all up and makes the whole thing look particularly problematic. So I used my Control Shift V. Ta-da! There's my article. And so then I need to figure out who's the publisher of this article. Well, and it turns out it looks like it's The Verge. So I will go back over here and I'll say The Verge. And if you remember from our source citation conversation, the next part is the date of publication. So May 20th, 2024 is when this article came out. So I'll come back over here and I'll type that there. Then I'll go back over because the next part is the URL. So I grab the URL, press space, and then say accessed on 5/20/24. So I'm almost done now. I've got all my parts. I've got my author, and if he had qualifications, it would go right next to it. Article title, the publisher, the publication date, the URL, and then the accessed on date. So I'll double click there and I'll bold it, and then I'll go here and I'll bold that as well. That allows you to help the reader who's just picking up this file for the first time know who the author and date are on a quick sort of pattern, be able to pick that up quickly. It just kind of helps people reading when they're reading through files. So we have a completed card right now. And that's all you really have to do. Now when you're first starting to cutting cards, you don't need to worry about all the other headers. Just make sure you've got your tags in heading 4. You see how when I pressed the key combination it went to heading 4. Just make sure that you have tags in heading 4. That is the most important thing. And then you'll have your citation, just like we do here. And then we have the text of the card. So remember, even though we don't read most of these paragraphs, those two middle paragraphs, which are right here and right here, we still have to include them in the article, because once you take a paragraph, once you start with a paragraph, you have to take all of that paragraph and you have to keep going until you're done with it. So you see up here, we didn't even start at the annual refreshes. We started here with, we now have a second beta release of Android 15. It's a good opportunity to round up everything coming to the OS this year. So even though it's not the beginning of the paragraph that we're wanting to read in round, we still had to take the entirety of the paragraph. And then we had to take all of this, even though we aren't going to use it. And we're not going to use this, but we had to take all of that as well. And then we come down here, and this is going to be the last paragraph because that's the last part we read from. See down here? And even though we stop at YouTube, doesn't mean we get to truncate the paragraph or get rid of words off of that paragraph. You still have to have all of them. So hopefully you have a better idea of how to cut cards on this document. And, worst case scenario, we'll probably share with people on the squad to be able to give them access to it, and you'll be able to do that. We'll be able to help you with that. But the main thing is that you should remember is how to cite something, make sure to have your tags, and make sure to underline your cards. And the more cards you cut, the better you're going to get at cutting cards. So hopefully this crash course using debateX will be helpful for you as you start your card cutting adventures.